Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. I am Monet and you're watching Life is Monet. Have you missed me? Did you guys miss me? Because I missed you guys. So yes, I've been on a bit of a hiatus for the last few months. Listen, life at the end of 2023, it started lifing. Like the year was already hard. The year was already yearing. And when I say it went out with a bang, it stumped me. It caught me in a dark back alley. And like all the months of January through November, they all just got their lick up off me. And I had to survive. I had to make it to 2024. So here I am, recovering, dealing, surviving, the whole thing. I'm here, I'm ready to film, I'm ready to talk about all the books that I plan to read in February. It's going to be a relatively short, kind of small list because, I've been kind of free of a TBR for a while. I've been reading whatever my heart desires, whatever I feel like, and I really enjoy that. So I want to start implementing a TBR very lightly. Part of the reason why I want to keep a TBR in 2024 is because hey, there's so many books that I want to read, actively want to read. There's so many new releases that I want to get my hands on throughout the year, and this is really just a reminder for me to actually read them. So let's get into it. Kicking it off with a book that I was supposed to read and finish in the month of December, but we already talked about what happened in December, so that didn't happen. That's going to be A Game of Thrones. I've actively started it. I'm 50 pages in, which is nothing because, honey, do you see the words? Jeez, it's working with me. I anticipate that I'm going to have to read a lot of this physically. If I do audio, it's going to have to be a hybrid because I heard the sample of that audiobook, and I think they should go back in there and I think they should do it again. I think they should try again. I think they should get a different voice actor and see what we can come up with the second time around because it doesn't work for me. So here we are. I'm buddy reading this with Robin from Robin Reads, and this is my first time actually reading the books. So I'm a huge fan of the show. I love what HBO has done with the franchise. I love House of Dragon, but I feel like it's time for me to finally pick up these books and read through the series. I'm going to be trying to finish all of the books by the summertime of this year because I know House of Dragon season 2 is set to release in the summer of 2024. So my goal is to kind of be either done or majority through, close to being done with a game, A Song of Ice and Fire, let's call it by its real name, with a Song of Ice and Fire series by the time we get House of Dragon season 2. If not, I at least want to know majority of the history and the lore around the Targaryens and the era that's set in. I'm also planning to do a rewatch of Game of Thrones now that I'm, a reader. Now that I've read the books, I want to rewatch the show because it's been a long time. Next up is going to be House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. This is going to be quite the read because I loved book 1, House of Earth and Blood. I gave it 5 stars. Okay, I thought Sarah was in her bag. Is there a lot of flaws and imperfections to that book? Yes, I stand with you and I recognize that, but honey, I still loved it. 5 stars. And then we went into House of Sky and Breath, which was book 2. It dropped from 5 stars to 1 star. I thought that book was a heaping pile of trash. Okay, I have a review on my channel of why I did not like that book. I recently reread it and I feel like in that review I said what needed to be said. I left it all out there, honey. I still agree. It was still a 1-star read, and I was even more annoyed that I couldn't even, I was actively looking for a way to enjoy it more during my second read because the disappointment was already out there. And I was like, okay, let's move past the disappointment and see what we can find, see what we can salvage and scavenge out of this situation. It turns out it was nothing. It was nothing was given, nothing was given, flat fizz soda. And so, yeah, still a 1-star read. And so we have a 5-star and a 1-star. And I'm excited for this one because I enjoyed the ACOTAR series. I haven't read Throne of Glass. I don't plan to read Throne of Glass. So that's not it. So my introduction to Sarah J. Maas has literally been through ACOTAR. And so it's super cool to see her cross over these worlds. And I hope that she does it without wasting our fucking time. Okay, so yeah, we'll be reading House of Flame and Shadow. After that, I will also be reading Ruthless Vows. I read Divine Rivals last year and I loved it. It was 5 stars. It was a Patreon exclusive. I did not expect to love that book as much as I did, but there was just something about Rebecca Ross's writing that, everything I hear about her and every time I hear someone review her writing and her prose and the way that she tells her stories and the characters, I'm like, she sounds like she's going to be right up my alley. And I don't know what took me so long to pick up a book by her, but Divine Rivals was my first one. It was 5 stars. I loved it. And so I'm actually very excited for Ruthless Vows because it's a duology. So this is the end. I know that she's going to be writing more books. So I'm definitely definitely, like, this isn't the end for me and Miss Ross. Like, I'll be reading other books by her. But if you don't know what Divine Rivals is about, we are set in like this quasi World War I setting where we have two journalists that are covering a war between gods, and they feel as though, or the female character, can't remember her name. What is her name? Iris and Roman, sorry about that. But Iris is covering this war. She feels like they're not being honest about what's really happening. Her brother is someone that has gone off to fight for the goddess of this war, and she has not heard from him since he left. So she wants to get to the front lines because she wants to check on her brother, who has been MIA and non-communicative since he went off to fight for the goddess of the war. And then also she wants to get the truth about the war, about what's really happening, if the gods are really fighting, and what it is they're actually fighting over. When she gets to the front lines of this war, her rival that she left behind at a newspaper company, because they were both like journalists or a columnist in the newspaper, they were competing for the same permanent position, and Iris was up against Roman, and he was slowly falling in love with her. They've been exchanging private letters without knowing who each other is. So these are kind of like fantasy letters that they just kind of type on a typewriter and put inside a wardrobe, and it disappears and goes to the other person. So he is in love with Iris. He's worried about her being on the front lines, and so he kind of takes off after her, and there's the romance between them, and the story just kind of unravels and spirals from there. And I thought that it was very well written. It is the opposite of fantasy romance that we've seen today, because it really lacks smut. Like, it's very it almost has a bit of like purity culture in it, but I thought that might have been just a little refreshing. No, I'm like not for purity culture in my fantasy romances, but it was still cool to see, you know, her honor the time, because like I said, this is like quasi 1910s, 1920s, so this need to be like married and like committed to each other before you introduce all these other like relationship aspects was super cool to see. So I'm excited to see what she does with Ruthless Vows. And you know, it's Black History Month. I don't know what my TBR is going to be. Every year I upload a video of me reading Black literature, Black books by Black authors. I haven't built that TBR yet, so I don't know what this is going to look like, but these two are going to be on my monthly TBR. I don't know if I'll include them in the video. If I do, then you'll hear my thoughts. If not, I'll probably just still do a wrap up. So this may or may not be in my Black History Month reading vlog. The first is going to be Jesmyn Ward, Men Reaped, and the second is going to be Disappearing Acts. This was sent to me by a booktube friend. This is a Black romance, and this is an autobiography of Jesmyn going through the Black men in her life and how she has seen them be affected by the system and just Black experiences of Black men, and how that has affected her and the women in her life. So I don't know much about either or, but I do plan to pick them up. Of course, there's gonna be more Black books by Black authors throughout the month. I just don't know what I'm gonna be vlogging until I actually start vlogging. Maybe this is a reason for me to go to Barnes & Nobles and do some book shopping, or to really get on my Kindle and see what I can find. And then the last book that is actually on my TBR to finish in the month of February is going to be Hunting Adeline. This is book 2 and the sequel to Haunting Adeline. I always confuse the titles, so I have to slow myself down to make sure that I'm not messing it up. But this is a very dark romance between a girl and her stalker. That's the only way that I can put it. It's unhinged, it's toxic, it's not healthy, it's not a relationship that anybody should ever want to mimic in real life, but it's entertaining on page. I'm not gonna lie to you, there were some wild things that were happening in the book that had me like, are we sure this is the type of romance and love that we want? But she was all gung-ho for it. I don't know, that's not true. She was down for it, weirdly. It's very confusing because Adeline is afraid of her stalker guy, but she likes being afraid. Like, it's called the cat and mouse duet purposely because she often feels like a mouse, and so she's terrified and she's running, but she likes the adrenaline that gives her. That's the feeling that I got from the book. And so she likes being a prey and running from this predator. So the fact that she has a literal predator after her on some like weird stuff, she likes it. It's weird. Like I said, pick it up at your own peril, but I own book 1 and book 2. It was sent to me by a subscriber at this point, like 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And I need to finish it. I want to read it because I enjoyed the first book. I want to know how it ends. It's just, it took me so long to get around to this because we end on like this kind of explosive note in book 1 where our two love interests are separated from each other and there are some bad people, you know, after them. And I heard that book 2 is like really emotionally provoking. It's way darker than it was in book 1, and it's no longer fun, the situation that they're in or that they're going through. And I was like, that might be too much for me. But now I feel like I'm in a better place mentally to pick it up and to finish it. So 2 other series that I know I'm going to be reading in the month of January, they're just not like kind of on my official TBR because I'm reading them whenever I get the mood. That is going to be One Piece and Full Metal Alchemist. I said last year that I wanted to start Full Metal before the year was over, and my lovely friend Alana sent me the entire collection in a box set. Thank you, because I could not get my hands on these on any Libby or library app or website that I was trying to go to. So I've been reading Full Metal Alchemist. I'm about 11 volumes in out of 27, and I am enjoying it. I'm loving it. I can't wait to share my thoughts with you guys. You thought that I would love Full Metal Alchemist. I thought that I would love Full Metal Alchemist, and it turns out we were all correct. I've been thriving. One Piece I decided to test out and try because I watched the live action. I tried to watch the anime, but I just much prefer reading it to watching it anime style. And so I'm about 35 volumes into One Piece. I didn't expect to really dive into it this way. Like, I thought I was gonna read like, no, 5 or 10 volumes and, you know, just get a feel for the fandom and get a feel for the story and see why people love it. But turns out I'm a huge fan of One Piece. That was so unexpected because once I started reading, I could not stop. I can't put it down. So whenever I get some extra time and I want to run through a volume really quickly, I am currently reading One Piece. So stay tuned for my wrap up. I can't wait to talk to you guys about all the books that I've been reading, sharing my thoughts. They have not all been good, so I can't say all the reviews will be good, but they'll be entertaining to say the least. I've missed you guys. I hope you guys have missed me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.